Book of Heaven, Volume 11. The 8th of February to the 7th of March 1915. Page 92 to 97. February 8, 1915. Oblivion of ourselves is needed in order to occupy ourselves only with the salvation of others. The unity and the happiness of the three divine persons is in their will. Jesus wants to do the same with one who does his will in everything. I continue very afflicted because of the ways my always adorable Jesus uses with me, but I am resigned to his most holy volition. If I lament with Jesus because of his privations and his silence, he says to me, "This is not the time to think about this. These are childish fusses, and of very weak souls, who care about themselves and not about me, who think of what they feel rather than of what they have to do. These souls reek of human to me, and I cannot trust them. From you I do not expect this. I want the heroism of the souls who, forgetting about themselves, care only about me and, united with me, occupy themselves with the salvation of my children, whom the devil tries to snatch from my arms with all his tricks. I want you to adapt yourself to the times, now sorrowful, now mournful, now tragic, and to pray and cry together with me for the blindness of creatures. Your life must disappear and let my whole life permeate you. If you do this, I will feel in you the fragrance of my divinity, and I will trust you in these sad times, which are nothing less than preludes of chastisements. What will happen when things go further? Poor children, poor children." It seems that Jesus suffers so much that he remains speechless. He hides more deeply than inside the heart so as to disappear completely. When I renew my laments because of my sorrowful state, and I call him over and over again telling him, "Jesus, don't you hear about the tragedies that are happening? How is it possible that your merciful heart can bear so much torment in your children?" It seems that he barely moves in my interior, as if he didn't want to be heard. And I feel inside my breath another panting breath, like a rattle. It is the breath of Jesus because I recognize its sweetness. But as it refreshes me completely, it makes me feel deadly pains, because in that breath I feel the breath of all, especially of many lives dying in war, and Jesus suffers in an agonizing rattle. Other times, it seems that he is in so much pain that he sends feeble moans, which would move the hardest hearts to pity. Then, as I was continuing my laments, this morning he came and said, "My daughter, the union of our wills is such that the volition of one cannot be distinguished from that of the other. It is this union of wills that forms the perfection of the three divine persons because, as we are equal in the will, this uniformity brings also the uniformity of sanctity, wisdom, beauty, power, love and of all the rest of our being. Therefore, we reflect ourselves one to the other, and our satisfaction in looking at ourselves is so great as to render us fully happy. So, each one is reflected in the other, and each one pours into the other all the qualities of our being, like many immense seas of different joys. If anything were dissimilar among us, our being could not be perfect, or fully happy. Now, in creating man, we infused into him our image and likeness in order to overwhelm him with our happiness and to be reflected and delighted in him. But man broke the first link of connection, the will, between himself and the Creator, therefore losing the true happiness. Even more, all evil swooped down upon him. So, we can neither reflect ourselves nor delight in him. We can do it only in that soul who does our will in everything. In her we enjoy the complete fruit of creation. Even those who have some virtues, who pray and attend the sacraments, do not allow us to be reflected in them, if they do not conform to our volition because, since their will is broken from ours, all things are in disorder and upside down. Ah, my daughter, only our will is acceptable, since it reorders, delights and brings all goods with it. Therefore, do my will always and in everything, and may my will be enough for you in every sanctity. And I, my love and my life, how can I conform to your will in regard to the many chastisements that you are sending? It takes too much to say, fiat. Furthermore, how many times have you told me that if I did your will, you would do mine? And now, have you changed? And Jesus, I have not changed, It is the creature that has reached the point of becoming unbearable. Come closer and suckle from my mouth the offenses that creatures send me. If you can swallow them, I will suspend the chastisements. I approached his mouth and suckled with avidity. To my greatest regret, I tried hard to swallow but I couldn't. I suffocated. I returned to try hard again, but I couldn't. Then, with a tender voice, sobbing, Jesus told me, "Have you seen? You cannot swallow it, it is too disgusting, nauseating and bitter. Spew it on the ground and it will fall upon creatures." So I spewed it, and Jesus too spewed it upon the earth from his mouth, saying, "This is nothing yet. This is nothing yet." And he disappeared. March 6, 1915. Divine justice does not want Luisa to be bound to the state of suffering as a victim, so as to continue to give course to chastisements and intensify the war. As I was in my usual state, my always adorable Jesus came for a little while. Since my confessor was not well and therefore my state had been interrupted, that is, when I used to come round at the call of obedience, I said to Jesus, "What do you want me to do? Should I stay, or should I try to come round when I feel free?" And Jesus, "My daughter, do you perhaps want me to operate as before, when I not only commanded you to remain still, but I also tied you in such a way that you could not come round, if not for obedience? If I did this now, my love would be constrained and my justice would find an obstacle in pouring itself out completely upon creatures. And you might say to me, just as you keep me tied as victim of suffering for love of you and for the creatures, I tie you so as to stop your justice from pouring itself out upon creatures. So, should everything be compromised, the wars and the preparations that other nations are making to go to war? I can't. At the most, if you want to remain tied, or if the confessor wants to keep you so, if you do, I will have some regard for Corrado, and I will save something. But in the meantime things get tighter, and my justice does not want you in this state of appeasement at all, in order to soon send more chastisements, make other nations go to war, and to lower the pride of creatures who will find defeats where they believe to find victories. Alas, my love cries, but my justice demands satisfaction. My daughter, patience." After he said this, he disappeared. But who can say how I remained? I felt like dying, because I thought that, if I had left that state of immobility and suffering by myself, I might have been the cause of an increase in chastisements and for the entrance of other nations into the war, especially of Italy. What pain, what heartbreak! I felt all the weight of this suspension from Jesus. I thought to myself, who knows if Jesus is not permitting the confessor to become well in order to give the final blow and make Italy enter the war? How many suspicions and fears! As I came out of the state of the usual mourning suffering by myself, I spent a day of tears and intense bitterness. March 7, 1915. The enormous sins of the world and, even more, those inside the Church cause chastisements as means of purification. The thought of the chastisements, and of the fact that I might foment them by getting out of that state by myself, was transfixing my heart. The confessor was still not well. I prayed and cried, and I couldn't make up my mind. Blessed Jesus came flashing by, and left me free. Finally, moved by compassion, he came, and sympathizing with me and caressing me, told me, "My daughter, your constancy wins me. Love and prayer bind me and almost wage a battle against me. This is why I came to be with you for a little while. I could not resist any more. Poor daughter, don't cry. Here I am, all for you. Patience, courage, don't lose heart. If you knew how much I suffer to punish men. But the ingratitude of creatures forces me to do this, their enormous sins, their incredulity, their will to almost challenge me. And this is the least. If I told you about the religious side, how many sacrileges? How many rebellions? How many pretend to be my children, while they are my fiercest enemies? How many false sons are usurpers, self-interested and unbelievers? Their hearts are bilges of vice. These children will be the first to wage war against the Church. They will try to kill their own mother. Oh, how many of them are already about to come out in the field? Now there is war among governments. Soon they will make war against the Church, and its greatest enemies will be its own children. My heart is shredded with pain. In spite of all, I will let this storm pass by, and the face of the earth and the churches be washed by the blood of the same ones who smeared and contaminated them. You too, unite yourself to my pain. Pray and be patient in watching this storm pass by. Who can tell about my torment? I felt more dead than alive. May Jesus be always blessed, and may his holy volition be always done.